Welcome back to the Men We Are podcast. My name's Kieran, and it's a pleasure to be guiding you through episode 16, which is also the penultimate episode in season 1 of the show. It's been a journey of self-discovery for me, and as I've gone through my issues, I've tried to recognize where the problems are in my life, where the good things are in my life as well. I've been doing my best to learn, to grow. And by talking about it, hopefully I've inspired some of you to take similar emotional journeys. So off the back of that, if you are brand new, there are 15 more episodes for you to get your teeth into. And from the last one, we talked about learning to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. Even going so far as to leave you with an exercise to try and stay present with feelings rather than do the stupid shit we always do as men of numbing, distracting, just pushing through in general. And that skill of staying, it's so much more than just emotional work. It quietly changes how we feel about a really big topic. It's challenging something bigger, something at the core of who we are and how who we are is defined. And I'm talking about what we think it means to be a man. When you hear the word man, what images come immediately into your mind? Just instant reaction. When you think of a manly man, another step up, what behaviors does that manly man exhibit? Is a manly man just a guy with a beard and a hairy back and big muscles? Or is there more to it? So for many of us, the version of masculinity we inherited was built around survival. And God, survival skills are wickedly powerful. But psychology reminds us frequently that strategies built for threat don't always serve well when it comes to connection. So today is not about tearing masculinity down or pointing fingers at it and saying this, and this is wrong. And I think any of you that have been along for the whole journey, you know that is the polar opposite of what we're trying to do here. So this episode, we could call it a redefine. We're trying to take masculinity and expand it. So from focusing our everything on performance, we're going to lean into looking at presence. From wearing an armor because we think we need it, we can look at how we achieve grounded strength. And remember, getting to this point of expanding our masculinity has come about because the version we inherited, the version that we know, it may have served us if we were living in a cave or in the dark ages or something, but it's just not working anymore. And as we inherited it, the people we got it from, they inherited it too from the generation before, possibly leaning even more into those ideals, and they got it from someone that inherited it too. So breaking the cycle is so difficult, but it is necessary. And from a personal standpoint, my lack of ability to consistently maintain contact with my emotions has not served me well. And it's like I've been leaning on some sort of crutch of manliness. But all that's done is it's caused me to kind of limp my way along, never really improving because I wasn't doing all the things. I just did the things that I thought were important. And the irony is that the things that I thought had no importance, they were actually probably the most important things. So more fool me, egg all over my face. So where did we get this inherited behavior? Like we're saying that we didn't consciously choose it. So in the same way that we learn about love from our parents or those people that were in those similar roles, we absorbed it through upbringing. And, from the role models, the male role models we had, fathers, older brothers, uncles, grandfathers, sports coaches. But the basics were that, strength meant not showing pain, or reliability meant I don't need support. And the worst one of all, and the one that I detest, is that love meant providing and not expressing it. And yeah, it's wonderful to be able to provide, but sometimes just open your fucking mouth. So we know from previous episodes, we've heard so much from him, Ronald Levin. He suggests that many men are socialized actively away from emotional awareness. almost to the point that difficulty identifying and expressing feelings has become totally normalized. So it's not pathological, it's been shaped by culture. And these traits, they definitely helped men in harder environments. But when emotional restriction becomes your default, research is going to link that to loneliness, reduced help seeking, relationship strain. And for me, all of those things sound like rotten things to have to endure. And this for me is a really, really salient one, because there's a really horrible statistic. In the United Kingdom, the biggest killer of men under the age of 50, I thought it would be something like heart disease or cancer, but it's actually the largest killer of men under the age of 50 is suicide. And if you think about what we just talked about, all of those things, loneliness, reduced help seeking, problems in your relationships, they are all things that steer people towards a point where they don't think they have any other options. So what I'll say is, I'm going out on a limb here, 100% out on the end of the branch. The branch is sagging under my weight, but God, if any of you are even considering or contemplating that, you put a comment in any of the comment sections. Tell me where I can find you. I'll call you, I'll email, because there is help. You're not alone. Like, you're part of a brotherhood, and I don't need to say any more than that. The offer is there, because I am here doing this because I want to make a meaningful change, because that statistic scares the shit out of me. It's completely unacceptable. You're not alone. Okay? So, moving on from that. Remember, having learnt things as a child, it can be incredibly difficult to undo. So, if I think about this, I think the behaviours that kept a boy safe, they can actually make you quite lonely as a man. So for me, as a teenager, I think I read a few too many books and watched a few too many episodes of Air Crash Investigation, which is the thing on National Geographic and similar channels. And I was learning how the most successful pilots, when they're faced with really, really adverse situations, they came through by staying rational at all costs, even in the most unpredictable of scenarios. And there is definitely some truth to that. And I've seen it in the real world. In my professional life, I've seen that some of the best operators, they just wear this hat that says, it's got the logo, "Come at me." They just bat it all away. But with my really strong desire to be a pilot, I started to mimic that behavior, thinking that I could work through situations, and that if I could apply that same level of logic and rationality, I was hardwiring a default which would serve me in the long run as an airline pilot. And as successful as developing that trait was in my professional life, applying it to conflicts, situations in my personal life, it may have left partners there's no case of may. It definitely left partners feeling emotionally dismissed, and that meant conflict just felt cold. So that's not to say I now seek out drama if I'm having an argument with someone, but sometimes people want to see some drama to show you actually care about what's happening. And if you're too rational and you're too adept at removing the emotion like too readily, what you're defining as logic, what I defined as logic, the other person just sees as apathy or distance. And I have definitely been accused of both of those, which is, oh God, I say it's a funny situation. It's not. It's a damning situation. But when you're accused of that, then, knowing deep down that you really care about what's going on and you're just trying to cope with it the way you cope, you either explode with anger that you're being accused of not caring, or, even worse, you stupidly try and rationalize their response, which is going to just keep the cycle going. So I say funny, but I don't think funny is actually the right word. So back to the problem at hand and the manliness idea, strength itself isn't the issue. There's no problem with being strong. Like, psychology distinguishes between emotional regulation and emotional suppression. And research by James Gross, it shows that suppression, where you push your feelings down, is associated with increased stress and lower relational satisfaction. Whereas if you can have some healthy regulation, that will give you the ability to have more awareness and flexibility. So it's like a double whammy. If you suppress your emotions, you're going to feel less, and you feel less and you get less out of your relationship. But if you allow those feelings to be felt, you feel more, and you feel more in the relationship. Like, it's really wonderful. So with that in mind, how can we define masculinity? What is healthy, psychologically healthy masculinity? Let's go with. So it's not going to be loud. It's not garish. It's not performative. You're not there proving anything to anyone. It just aligns with the concept that psychologists call it secure functioning. And it's this ability to remain emotionally present, to be responsive, and when you get stressed, to stay regulated. So this could be where guys have got it wrong, because they think that staying quiet and not allowing their faces to show any signs of stress or discomfort, that's strength. But actually, by doing that, what they're showing is weakness, because they're showing they have an inability to regulate their emotions. They have an inability to regulate their emotions because they're afraid that their face will give them away, almost, which makes them less functional. So this, to me, is where the idea of emotional intelligence, it really becomes relevant. And being able to name your internal experience, it is clearly in all of the literature linked to better mental health and relational outcomes. So the real term for identifying a specific emotion, it's emotional granularity. And if you have it, it improves your ability to regulate, and it reduces your reactivity to situations. So you're not just, when you have emotional granularity, you're not just saying, I feel emotional today. You are being quite specific. You're saying, I'm overwhelmed, or I feel sad, or I feel rejected. It is specific, and that awareness of what's actually happening for you internally, it prevents emotional leakage as anger, aggression, withdrawal. So at the time of recording this, I dealt with this today. I previously mentioned there's been some uncertainty with my job, and during a phone call with my mother, my poor mother, when she started to ask about the base and making suggestions, I absolutely tore her head off. I went from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, telling her, don't worry, it'll get sorted, just leave it alone. So the conversation, she left it alone, the conversation went on, and I knew I had done wrong. So whatever was being said from that point on in the conversation, I was stuck on having just been an absolute prick to my mother when all she was trying to do was help. So I had totally allowed my irritation and frustration to take over, and instead I'd allowed my anger at the situation to manifest itself as aggression. And for a moment, she could have been telling me where the gold was buried, and I didn't hear a thing, because I was sitting there a bit lost why I had absolutely just gone off on her. So fortunately, when I stopped her and apologized mid-conversation, I'm very sorry, I don't know why I've just gone off. Actually, I do know why. She was very understanding. We were able to have a quick conflab about it. And I was able to explain that, I'm sitting on such a massive dose of upset anger towards the company, and it's coming out as irritation, and I have a short fuse at the moment. So coming to that realization for me was a massive, massive mark of growth, because I was spotting emotions mid-conversation, and that felt good. But actually being able to backpedal and realize what I did wasn't the right response to what was happening, and to be able to do that in a really dynamic situation, that enormously felt like growth to me. And that is just a simple example of my growth. And it's come about as part of trying to guide your growth. So I'm not a shaman, a psychotherapist, a counselor. I'm just a man on a journey sharing what's going on for me. I'm trying to make sense of it all. And I hope it gives some of you those gentle moments of enlightenment that you're not alone in your challenges. And it has been pointed out to me that some really good female friends of mine are listening to the show and also recommending it to their female friends, which is wonderful, because I have no doubt some of the learning points, some of the psychology in here, it applies to women just as much as men. But come on, boys. Again, women are absolutely killing us when it comes to seeking out help, helping their friends voluntarily, and just generally communicating. So, if you know some boys that you think this might just help, if you've got brothers that could do with having some things put into perspective, follow, download, recommend, comment, anything at all that will get the show in front of the right people. And I'll leave it there. So, back on task, emotional awareness, intelligence, granularity, that nice new word, whatever you want to call it, it's really important, because traditional masculinity often equates worth with performance. Stuff like competence, control, achievements. But research in attachment theory from our man, we've heard so much from him, John Bowlby, it shows that emotional availability and not perfection is what is going to build secure bonds. So people feel safe with those who are emotionally present, not those who appear invulnerable. So perhaps being vulnerable humanizes us, where perfection makes us more like a robot. And who's going to connect with a robot? So that also means we have to be present, which means staying in hard conversations, listening without trying to fix the problem immediately, like admitting if you're not okay. And every single one of these, like we've talked about in this journey so far in the previous 15 episodes. And if you can achieve some of those things, you'll feel and be more authentic. And authenticity is what builds closeness in ways that performing just never can. So even if we remove the performance orientation, so many men equate masculinity with self-sacrifice, and I include myself in that. And when I think about it, I always come up with this stupid example of the dad's sandwich. And yeah, of course, men, we make real sacrifices. Women make real sacrifices. But this one always speaks to me as stupid, but kind of relevant. It's when you're all sitting at the table having breakfast and you're working through a loaf of bread. And somehow, when everyone else has made their sandwiches or whatever, at the end, there's just the two shitty ends left of the loaf of bread. So you're basically making a sandwich with two crusts. And you're not going to switch it out with the kids and say, oh, give us one of your proper bits of bread and you can have a crust. And your partner probably wouldn't care if you did swap. But we keep what we have because it's the way our brain is wired. And we're thinking that sometimes good enough will have to be good enough. The dad sandwich, honestly, it seems to happen so much. Maybe I'm just being bullied at home. But for all the nobility of self-sacrifice, psychology shows that chronic self-suppression, it predicts burnout and resentment. So research on self-compassion by Kristen Neff, it shows that people who acknowledge their own limits and needs are so much more resilient, not less. So a better way to consider grounded masculinity is to say, I'll show up, I'll carry my share, but I'm not going to disappear when I do it. So to satisfy that, if my son wants to go play trains, I now intentionally leave my phone out of reach. So I don't feel the temptation to try and do two things at once. Because if I do, I'm sacrificing the opportunity to fully share that moment with him. And by creating that simple boundary, by doing less with my time, I get so much more. If someone desperately needs me, the phone will ring. Otherwise, the bills I could be spending my time paying, looking on Pinterest for ideas of how to tidy the bikes in the shed, scrolling for gym gear on Amazon, they can all wait. And he'll remember Daddy was playing trains with him, and he won't just remember that Daddy was in the room. But, you know, we're all contending with these older models that link masculinity with dominance and control. So it shows that consistency, accountability, and emotional predictability will create psychological safety. And it's this concept that's widely studied in team and relationship dynamics. And if someone feels safe, they will give you their trust. And there are few more precious gifts someone can give you than that. And think about having lost someone's trust or lost trust in someone else. It's a pretty big deal if it matters to you. And yes, the periodic fuck up I am at times, I lost someone's trust and I really paid the price. And I have no doubt some of you are also in the same boat, HMS moron, with me. But the shame associated with it can be a gift as it inspires real change. And I'm not saying any more on shame, because shame is going to be explored in such detail on the next season, I promise. But that man that is ticking the modern masculinity boxes, you know where you stand with him. Like he's not going to erupt unpredictably. He's going to own his mistakes. And that steadiness is what's building trust more effectively than any amount of force ever could. But we have to be clear that we're not attempting to replace masculinity. We're not coming up with a completely brand new blank sheet. So I don't need any nonsense comments that I'm bashing men for being manly, or I'm trying to turn us all into fairies, or, you know, we're all going to go and audition for a part in the vagina monologues. Nothing like that. We're trying to integrate masculinity. So you still get to be driven, capable, protective, strong, anything that they're all things that to me are manly things. But now strength also includes emotional awareness. Steadiness includes the ability to be vulnerable. You know, you're not losing parts of yourself. You're kind of reclaiming the ones that have been left behind. And it doesn't matter when you left them behind, honestly. It really doesn't, because you're here now trying to improve, and that awareness should make you feel pretty good. Like, psychologists consistently find that rigid adherence to these restrictive masculine norms, it's going to make you more stressful. You won't seek help. You'll have crappy emotional well-being, rubbish relationships. So if you're attempting to change, that means you are driving towards reducing all of those things. And that's a great, great gift to have at the end of it. So the world it doesn't just need productive men. It needs present men, like fathers who can emotionally regulate themselves and show that. Partners who can stay engaged even when things are difficult. So this is, it's connection, longevity in relationships, and ultimately staying connected to yourself. And I mean, look at the journey we've been on this season. We've acknowledged awareness, and we've seen the armor. Like, we've seen grief. We've talked about grief a few times and recognized that it was these unacknowledged losses. And now, even from the last episode, we experienced the power of like riding through discomfort by somehow learning to stay. So now we start to arrive at a clearer sense of who we want to be. And it's not, I'm hard at all costs. The most important thing is, I don't need to be silent to survive. I need to be steady. I need to be aware. And I need to be present. And with that, I'm I'm pleased to say, with those good practices pulling us forward, the next episode is going to be the final one of this season. And it's not going to be a conclusion. I'm not summarizing my points. It's more of a reflection of where we went this season. You know, it's the men we are becoming. What has shifted so far? What can we see more clearly? And the direction we're choosing. And we don't quite have the full map yet. There are still so many things to learn. I have so much to learn between now and the next time the next season that I'll talk to you. Because growth isn't just learning new ideas, it's trying to integrate them into your real life. So for now, I really want you to sit with this, and its strength and softness, they were never opposites. And the most grounded men are the ones who can hold both at the same time. And that's not a new kind of man. It's just a more complete version. And that's it for today. As I said, the next episode is the final episode in this series. It might be just a little bit longer than the norm, just because there's a few things to get through. But outside of that, between now and then, I wish you luck. As I said, if you are new to the channel, I suggest you go find some of the other episodes. Maybe some of the messages and learnings will speak to you. But between now and the final episode, I wish you the best of luck.